Welcome back to Exposure Stories. The silence that followed her words did not feel empty. It felt heavy, like the air before a storm. In a sport built on noise, speed, and spectacle, the quiet carried more impact than any engine ever could. Brittany Force had not just made an announcement, she had shifted the emotional center of drag racing itself. For years, fans had watched her as something almost untouchable, a driver who seemed engineered for the chaos of top fuel, someone who could harness 11,000 horsepower without letting it break her. But in that moment, the illusion cracked, not in a way that diminished her, but in a way that made her more real than ever before. Because what she revealed wasn't failure. It was truth. And truth, in a world that celebrates invincibility, can feel more shocking than any crash. There is a misconception about elite athletes, especially those in extreme motorsports. People assume that repetition breeds comfort, that the more you do something dangerous, the less it affects you. But in reality, the opposite often happens. Awareness sharpens. The risks become clearer, more vivid, more personal. Brittany wasn't becoming numb to the danger, she was becoming more aware of it with every run. Every time she strapped herself into the cockpit, tightened the belts across her chest, and rolled toward the starting line, she wasn't just preparing for another pass. She was confronting everything she knew could go wrong. And that knowledge doesn't fade. It accumulates, layering itself over years until it becomes impossible to ignore. The physical toll alone is something most people will never fully understand. The human body isn't designed to handle the forces generated by a top fuel dragster. The acceleration alone can feel like being launched into another dimension, compressing the body, straining muscles, testing reflexes at a level where even a fraction of a second matters. But beyond the obvious strain, there's a deeper wear, one that builds slowly. The spine absorbs impact after impact. The brain processes vibrations and shocks that never fully settle. Recovery becomes part of the routine, but true recovery, the kind that restores rather than just repairs, becomes harder to find. Brittany had been managing that reality for years, pushing through it, adapting to it, refusing to let it define her. Until it finally demanded to be acknowledged. And then there's the mental side, the part that rarely makes headlines but often carries the greatest weight. Racing at that level isn't just about skill, it's about clarity. Every decision must be instant, precise, and confident. There's no room for hesitation, no space for doubt. But what happens when doubt starts to creep in anyway? Not loudly, not all at once, but quietly, subtly. A second thought before staging. A moment of tension where there used to be instinct. Brittany described nights where she couldn't escape those thoughts, where races replayed in her mind not as victories, but as moments to analyze, critique, and question. That kind of mental loop doesn't just stay in the background, it grows louder over time. Her identity made it even more complex. Being the daughter of John Force meant she was never just another competitor. She was part of a legacy that defined the sport itself. The Force name carries expectation, history, and an almost mythological presence within drag racing. Brittany didn't just step into that world, she was born into it. And while she earned her place through talent and determination, the weight of that name never disappeared. Every performance was measured not only against her peers, but against the legacy that came before her. That kind of pressure doesn't always come from others. Often, it comes from within. From the desire to honor something bigger than yourself, even when it starts to take more than it gives. Over time, the balance shifted. What once felt like passion began to feel like obligation. What once brought excitement began to bring anxiety. Brittany spoke about waking up with a sense of heaviness instead of anticipation, about feeling drained before the race weekend even began. These aren't the kinds of struggles that show up on timing sheets or leaderboard standings, but they are just as real, arguably more so. Because while a bad run can be corrected, a fractured mindset is much harder to repair. When she finally admitted that she needed to step back, it wasn't a sudden decision. It was the result of years of internal negotiation, of pushing forward when every instinct might have suggested slowing down. And that's what made her words resonate so deeply. She wasn't walking away in defeat. She was choosing to protect herself before the sport could take something she couldn't get back. In a discipline where pushing limits is celebrated, choosing restraint can feel almost revolutionary. The reaction from the community reflected that understanding. Drivers who had spent their careers doing the same thing, pushing through pain, ignoring warning signs, prioritizing performance above all else, recognized the significance of her choice. Some saw it as a moment of reflection, a reminder of paths they had taken and the costs that came with them. Fans, too, shifted their perspective. Instead of asking when she would return or what she would do next, many simply expressed gratitude for her honesty, for her courage, for everything she had already given to the sport. Even her father, John Force, a man whose career has been defined by relentless determination, showed a different side. His response wasn't about competition or legacy, it was about family. About recognizing that behind the driver is a person, and that person matters more than any title or record. It was a powerful moment, one that underscored the humanity at the heart of a sport often defined by extremes. As the dust settles, one thing becomes clear. This moment isn't just about Brittany Force. It's about what she represents. She has opened a conversation that extends beyond drag racing, about pressure, identity, mental health, and the courage it takes to step back when everything around you is telling you to keep going. She has shown that strength isn't just about endurance, it's about awareness. About knowing your limits and respecting them even when it's difficult. Her future remains unwritten, and that uncertainty is part of what makes this moment so powerful. She may return to racing, rediscovering the passion that first brought her to the sport. She may choose a different role, shaping the next generation of drivers, influencing safety, or redefining what it means to succeed in motorsports. Or she may simply take the time she needs, without pressure, without expectation, allowing herself to exist outside of the identity she has carried for so long. What matters most is that the choice is hers, and that, more than any record or championship, may be her greatest achievement. Because in a world that celebrates speed, Brittany Force chose stillness. In a sport that rewards risk, she chose safety. In a culture that often demands perfection, she chose honesty. And in doing so, she reminded everyone watching that even the strongest among us are still human, and that sometimes, the bravest thing you can do isn't to keep going, but to stop, take a breath, and decide what truly matters before the next run begins.